Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the July Plan Tech meeting. Just want to say thank you everybody for joining us today. Hope you're staying cool in this dreadful weather. We're going to move through the agenda. We've got a lot to talk about today. So I want to just start with introductions and consent agenda. So what I'm going to do is just have everybody, this always takes forever. And if someone has a really great system for this, I have yet to find a really good system for this besides just looking at the participant list, which will normally throw you up to the very top and those folks who are organizing. But if we could just start doing it with Rosie and Jory, do you guys want to start? And then I'm going to go to Julie because alphabetically Julie falls in my participant list next. So let's just take a minute and do that. So Rosie, do you want to kick things off with an introduction? A quick introduction of yourself and your organization.
Sure. Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council. And I think, Dina, if I may, Dory just dropped a link to a document in the chat box, and it's organized by organization.
Oh, perfect. Let's
go
that route.
He usually calls out the organization, like for example, Alta. And then if there's anyone here from that organization, they would speak up and say their name.
Yeah, so Rosie, I'm going to throw this to you. I can't see that document because I don't have access to that Google Doc. So to not delay in getting that access, do you want to just go ahead and read off the organizations? Would you mind doing that for us today?
Absolutely. Alta,
okay.
Bluffdale, Brighton, Copperton.
I'm Kayla. I'm here with the MSD, so I have all the metro townships in town of Brighton.
Thank you, Kayla. Cottonwood Heights, Draper, Emigration Canyon, Harriman.
Michael Malloy, Planning Director with Harriman City. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Holiday, Kearns, Magna, Midvale.
Adam Wilson, Planning Director with Midvale.
And Wendelin Knobloch, I'm the Senior Planner with Midvale.
And then Nate Rockwood as well. I'm the Community Development Director with Midvale. And then I'm also with Brighton as well.
Welcome, welcome. Mill Creek, Murray.
Hi, Brett Hale. Oh, sorry, Jared.
No, that's okay.
Jared and Brett, we're with Murray City.
Thanks.
Riverton.
Jason Lethbridge, I'm the Development Services Director with Riverton City.
Salt Lake City.
Joe Taylor, Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake County.
That's me.
Sandy.
Brittany Ward, Sandy City Transportation Engineer.
Evelyn Everton, Sandy City Government Affairs Director, and Mayor Zoltansky is working on getting on right now.
All right. South Jordan.
This is Greg Schindler, South Jordan City Planner.
South Salt Lake City. Taylorsville. West Jordan.
It's Mayor Burton from West Jordan.
Welcome, welcome. West Valley City.
Mayor Lang, West Valley.
Welcome, Mayor. White City. UDOT. UTA. FHWA. Wasatch Front Regional Council.
There's quite a few of us, Rosie. You want to run through them, or do you want us to jump in?
Sure. I see Megan Townsend, Nikki Navio, Julie Jornstead, Ted Knowlton. Excuse me. I know I saw Michaela Jordan. Yep, Michaela Jordan. Lauren Victor, Bert Granberg, Matthew Silsky, Bill Harrod, Christy Dahlberg, Mike Subchak, And if I miss anyone from WFRC, please speak up.
Tyler Torres.
Oh, Tyler, you are here. Okay.
Thank you.
Jordan School District. Envision Utah. Avenue Consultants. I think Thomas raised his hand. He
Yeah.
is here.
I think
All
he's
right.
waving.
Yep. And WCG. And that's everyone on the list.
Great. Did we forget? And is there anybody who we didn't call or didn't recognize that you'd like to now? Please unmute and just let us know you're here.
Sorry, Carrie Doan from UTA. I'm late. I had to update my Zoom, apparently.
Welcome, Carrie. Oh, welcome, Mayor. Mayor Zoltansky from Sandy. I think I saw Todd Draper jump on. Todd?
Yeah, Todd Draper here as well. Sorry, had to update Zoom as well.
And I can see Sam Clem from Salt Lake County is also here. Who have we missed? Anyone else?
This is Mercedes Maestas from Salt Lake County Health Department.
Okay.
Chris Wiltsey with Bike Utah.
This is David Rogers with Salt Lake County.
Hi, David. I wasn't sure you were going to be able to join us today. Thanks.
Addison Mitten, City of Bluffdale.
Jennifer Jastrzemski, Draper City.
Okay, it looks like we've gotten everybody. Thanks, Rosie, for your help with that. I appreciate it. And Jory, thanks for fixing whatever the link is in the Google Docs so everybody could see that. I appreciate that as well. So we want to take a moment and I'll entertain a motion to approve our minutes. Is there a motion on the minutes that were presented in the packet?
This is Jared from Murray, so moved.
Jared, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Brett Hales, Murray City. I'll second it.
Great, thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve our minutes as presented in the packet. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, just do a raise your hand. You can do that in your, down at the bottom under reactions. You can raise your hand. Okay.
I can't see it, so I say aye, Brett Hales.
Okay. Actually, and this is usually easier for us to say thank you very much. Okay, if you guys can lower your hands, we'll say anybody with an objection to that motion, please indicate so either verbally or with your hand. Okay, seeing none, the minutes passed as approved. Okay, so we're going to jump into Household and Jobs Forecast Viewer with the analytics group.
Okay, thanks, Dina. Can
Thanks,
folks
Bert.
see my screen yet?
Yeah, we can.
Great. I can't see that you're viewing it, but if you can see it, then I'll go ahead. All right, I'm going to take 10 minutes or so to really quickly give you an update on the household and job forecasting work that we're doing, and to invite everyone to jump into a web map that I'm going to demo in a minute and provide comments and input as we sort of continue our process to tune this forecast. So in the April TAC meetings, I presented our work and our schedule for forecasts, and specifically kind of honed in on the household and job forecast, which also goes by the name socioeconomic forecast, or sometimes just SE. And I talked about how the real estate market model uses a wide range of newly updated regional input data with a software platform called Urban Sim. And really what we're doing with REM is we're distributing the county level growth projections from the Gardner Policy Institute to much finer grained traffic analysis zone level geography. REM's going to look at existing land use conditions and recent trends, together with sort of the future envisioned land use types and capacities to balance all the possible development opportunities in each county, and give us a forecast each year through 2050. In a nutshell, it's trying to answer this important question, which a lot of other questions are based on, which is where are people going to live and work in the future? Important stuff, right? This is a key input. This future household and job distribution is a key input to the travel demand model, to a lot of sort of the project selection and prioritization work we do, also for access to opportunity measures that we're using more and more. It's also the starting point for environmental studies, looking at future conditions for projects, and just kind of generally of use within the region for everything from economic development to looking at the water budget and other resource questions. All right, so I said I was going to try and move fast. We'll jump in and we're going to load this new web map that we put together to look at the forecast. So I'm going to switch and put the URL into my browser, and if I can find the Google or the Zoom chat, I will put it there as well. That worked. All right, so this is our household and job forecast viewer, showing the preliminary draft forecast for the new RTP. And you're going to see right at the top, there are two key buttons. There's the drive the interface, there's the forecast, and then there's the ability to view change between years in the forecast. So we'll start here with the forecast. And right off the bat, you can see that we can choose different geographies to view the forecast at. So for example, we can view it aggregated up to cities. We can also choose different elements of the forecast. So the number of households, population, different types of jobs, and we can look at counts and densities. And then we can also select our year. So I'm going to start with households and at the city area level, and I'm going to toggle between count of households and density here. So there's count and there's sort of a density indicator. While I'm doing this, right, the map is generally showing us the results, and I can either kind of use this color bar as a guidance, or I can open a legend that tells me exactly what the colors mean and reposition it. Okay, so back to the different things that we can look at. We can look at job totals, jobs by sector, and then we also have this new measure, which is household job intensity. And with this measure, we're trying to weight the household count to put it on relatively equal footing with the number of jobs. So we've got a combined metric that shows the comparative land use intensity, treating residential and employment areas on similar ground. Okay. So from a year perspective, if you're short on time, you might start looking at the base year, which should represent existing conditions in 2019 pretty faithfully. You might look at the horizon year, because that's used for a lot of planning work, or you might pick something sort of out in the future, like 2030. And like the city level geography is interesting, and we can click on an individual city and we can get the actual sort of data points within the forecast at a density or at a count level, and we can see it graphed, and we can customize the lines that are displayed in the graph. So we're looking at just what we want to be able to see. There are something like 10 million data values in this web map, and we're working hard with user interface to keep keep it simple and let you focus on what you want to focus.
Bert,
Okay, so I'm going to zoom, pretend I'm a city. I'm going to zoom in to South Jordan, and we're going to look at the forecast in a little bit more detail, like you might.
Hey, Bert, there's a question.
Yeah, Bert, Tom has a question. Thomas McMurtry has a question.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so looking at this graph, could you explain that household plus job intensity? It's higher than just the summation of those two numbers. Yep. I'm curious what that is.
Yeah, so in our region, there are about 1.8 jobs per household. So basically we're taking the number of households, multiplying it by 1.8, and then adding the jobs. So they're on equal footing, and we're not averaging or anything like that. We're just leaving that raw count. And that's what that measure is.
So is that account for like the jobs that those people have outside of their city or wherever they are, and you're associating those with where their residence is located, plus then the jobs that are in the area? So basically jobs are being double counted. Is that right?
I missed the last word that you said.
That jobs are basically being double counted because you're given a job number for household, which you said was 1.8, but then you're adding it to the jobs in that area. Is that correct?
So households are, so we're not counting the jobs that a household has. We're counting the households in the geographic area, right, and then the jobs area in that geographic area.
Yeah, but you're multiplying the households by 1.8 because that's how many jobs they have.
Right.
Do you care if I just jump in really quick, Bert?
Sure, go ahead.
At least the concept is, let's weight the households in the region and the jobs in the region equally. And so in order to weight those equally, we just have an adjustment factor for the households. So that's at least the rationale.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of an indicator than it is like something real, but it should get at overall intensity. So if we look at it at a regional level, we've got residential areas being put on, again, roughly equal footing with areas that don't have any households in them at all, like the Northwest Quadrant. Okay. So I've switched to the traffic analysis zone level geography, and just to quickly kind of demo what a city might do, I'm going to zoom in on South Jordan. And I'm going to switch to total jobs. We're looking at 2030. Let's switch to 2019, and I can turn on the labels, and we'll switch to count. And you can see the jobs that in the base year for different areas in South Jordan here. Okay, so one kind of cool way to look at this is, you can go to any year you want, or you can move through the future, going 5 or 10 years at a time, or 1 year at a time, and kind of see how things change as we approach 2050. So that's the increment tool there. And again, like the map display, if we don't have the labels on, you're just seeing the colors, and those are based on those symbol classes, a little bit coarse. And if you want to see the numbers for any specific TAZ or city, you can just click on that polygon, and it will show you the table, sort of a summary table of all of the forecast elements. It'll highlight the one you're looking at now, and show the numbers in the graph. So I'm going to move next to the comment function. So there are 2 places where you can submit feedback specific to a geography. So you can click on a city and submit feedback, or you can click on a TAZ, and either, well, we've clicked on one, and we've got this submit feedback button here. We also can access it up here at the top. That's going to open up this feedback panel, and you can put your email address in and provide the information you want for the comments. So something like that. And then you can also view comments that have been submitted by other folks for the same geography. So that's how we want to get comments on the forecast. It's most useful for us to get comments at the TAZ level, because we can go and see what's going on in the real estate market model and make adjustments if needed. But we'll take them for sure at the city level. Generally, you can email us if you've got other thoughts. But just keep in mind that any place that is going to increase or decrease we're going to need to find an offsetting place, because we're adhering to the county controls to make the opposite move. So this is a zero-sum game or a tug-of-war type situation. So if you've got thoughts on where maybe something needs to be increased, we'd really be interested in how you might advise us to make the reciprocal adjustment as well. Okay, last but not least, it's probably worth just really quickly showing the change function within the user interface. And I'm not going to go into this in any detail just because we're short on time, but it's pretty intuitive. The key feature here is that you can set a 2-year and a from year, and it will similarly use sort of a color ramp to show where growth is happening for the particular forecast element that you selected. Okay, so that's the quick demo. Just a couple of sort of concluding remarks. In the web map, if you want more information about sort of how our process works, this information panel has a lot of background and useful information. We'll be adding to that. We also, have some additional work to do ourselves with the forecast. So while this is a preliminary draft and we're excited to get your comments on it, we'll also be making some changes, and you might see some changes expressed in the map. We do have a forecast log where with the most recent changes, first we've started a list of sort of descriptions of changes we've made to the web app and to the forecast data set. I mentioned this, the zero-sum game and the offsetting thoughts are nice if you want to see an increase or a decrease in a particular area. And the other thing is that this is all using a new set of traffic analysis zones. Every 10 years, we redefine the boundaries and we align them to changing boundaries, to new road alignments that are better known. So we're using the traffic analysis zones that will be released with the version 9 travel demand model. And that will be part of the RTP adoption. So across the WFRC and MAG space, where we had about 2,800 TAS previously, in this forecast data set that with the new TAS, you're going to see about 3,500 TAS. So a few extra, 25% more TAS than before. We'd like to get comments by August 1st. So hopefully folks can find some time to dig into the forecast in their city. And when you submit comments, any information you can provide in terms of supporting your comments would be great, including just like, hey, follow up with me via email and I'll set you up with the master plan for this area or something like that. We'll be taking a look at that. The last thing, Jory said I had to use our new WFRC school pictures. So this is the team that's working on the real estate market model within the analytics group. You feel free to reach out to us with questions or comments you want to provide via email or over the phone. So Andy, Josh, myself, we're all set up to take your input and see what we can do with it in refining the forecast.
Hey, thanks, Bert. Are there any questions? I see a little bit of stuff happening in the chat, but mostly just, oh, sorry, Jory just made sure the attendance roll was editable. All right, any questions for Bert on this? I'm sure you'll get some follow-up emails. Bert, coming up before your August 1 deadline for comment. So thanks for that. Okay,
sorry,
no
yeah. One question, Gina. Bert, I tried to navigate through the map gallery. Is it not there? In case we lose this.
That's a good point. So we're not putting this out for full-on public comment. It's more of a stakeholder type input opportunity. So we can show the link out via an email to the, in fact, the plan is to share the link out with additional information for folks who might have missed the meeting or want to review things. So we'll get that out to you.
Okay. Yeah, but if you're in the, if you've got, I mean, it's in the chat, so pull it up and bookmark it during the meeting if you can. Otherwise, Bert, do you know when will you be sending out the link to stakeholders after you get feedback, or are you going to send it out after this meeting?
In the next day or so.
Okay.
I'm gonna glom on to whatever follow-up process Jory and his crew suggest.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you. Any other questions for Bert before we move to the next agenda item? Okay, seeing none in the chat, let's move on to our next item, which is station area plans and HB 462, an update on that. Megan, turn the time over to you.
Thank you so much, Dina. Let me get this pulled up and not multitask by talking through it. Okay, are you seeing a slideshow view of that? Awesome. Okay, so I think everyone is aware by this point, the station area planning provisions of House Bill 462 are in effect, took effect June 1st. I'm going to walk through a little bit of an overview of the station area planning requirements that now affect many of you, not all of you, where we're at with the MPO roles in station area planning and what some next steps are, including an opportunity to learn more tomorrow. So if that's not on your calendar, hopefully you'll have the opportunity to get that calendared today. Here's our agenda today. So we'll summarize, I kind of went through this just now, but we'll summarize the station area planning provisions, discuss the FRC's approach, and discuss opportunities to learn more. And if you'd like to click through anything as I'm going through, the station area plan web page is now up on our website. And you can get to that by clicking on programs and going to station area planning at wfrc.org. Okay, so I think it's pretty common to ask why the station area planning requirements ended up in House Bill 462, which is the housing bill requiring updates to the moderate income housing plans. And so these are a few key reasons why the station area planning fits within the House Bill 462. And these all really align with our Wasatch Choice vision. So first, transit stations are well suited to accommodate and absorb growth while also preserving community character. Providing smaller lot or multifamily housing in strategic centered locations with reduced parking minimums can allow for greater affordability. Coordinating mixed use development with transportation infrastructure gives residents more options to bike, walk, take transit. That reduces the housing and transportation costs. And then finally, linking housing and transportation provides greater access to job and education opportunities. And so really it's about good centered development with access to regional transportation. The 4 objectives of the station area plans align really closely with our Wasatch Choice vision. Those are to increase the availability and affordability of housing, promote sustainable environmental conditions, enhance access to opportunities, and increase transportation choices and connections. There's a requirement within the station area planning statute that each station area plan address these 4 objectives in some way. There's a lot of flexibility within how to do that. I am going to pull up a map here. The required planning area for station area plans is a ½ mile around rail stations and a ¼ mile around BRT stations. That is where the BRT station is on fixed guideway. So let me actually get out of here and go to a resource that's on that webpage that I showed you how to get to. We have an interactive map on our website that has all of the stations. Oh, I might have a Wi-Fi issue. Hang on here. All of the stations with the required station area planning boundary. Looking at the S line here in South Salt Lake and Salt Lake City is a little crazy with all the overlapping stations. Those stations are fairly close together, but it pulls up those station area planning boundaries, and this is overlaid with our Wasatch Choice Vision. I like to show this because, is my bandwidth coming through okay? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, it's not letting me navigate through this map. I think I'm asking too much of the internet here. Anyway, you can see that the stations are overlaid with our Wasatch Choice Vision, and you can see that by design, right, our Wasatch Choice centers really follow this transit network. And so without a doubt, many of the station areas have a lot of planning work that has gone into them already as you're planning your Wasatch Choice centers. Bert, I don't know how you make your Wi-Fi work so well to present and run through these maps. Anyway, you can also see how the station areas overlap with one another and cross municipal boundaries. And so we're here to help with navigating how to plan, how to approach planning in those station areas that do overlap and especially cross municipal boundaries. And I'll get to that here in a minute when talking about existing, about technical assistance. I am going to stop trying to use this map, but I do encourage you to pull it up on your own. Let me get this shared again. I encourage you to pull it up on your own, kind of poke through how these station areas overlay with your city, and definitely look at neighboring communities and if their stations have a station area that overlaps in your city. Let me get back to that presentation. Okay, and we're back. Let's click through here. So the station area plan components, these are the 5 key components that are required when you're doing your station area planning. That is the vision. This includes development opportunities and constraints, a vision for the transportation system, all modes included there, and land use, including open space and any development standards. A map that has to cover that full station area boundary. It may be that you look at that station area boundary as a study area and there's a more defined planning area, depending on the constraints within the station area. It needs to include a 5-year implementation plan, and we're going to dive into the specifics of that a little bit more in the training tomorrow that I'll tell you about. An explanation of how the 4 objectives are met, those objectives that I presented in the beginning. Each station area plan needs to address those 4 objectives, but of course in the unique way that's appropriate for that station area. And your station area planning process needs to have public involvement and stakeholder engagement. Certain stakeholders are called out within the legislation, but really it's just being mindful of who the impacted stakeholders are and trying to have a really robust public outreach process. I put a link to the code down there at the bottom. After June 1, when the legislation took effect, there is a section of Utah code where you can view all the details of these station area plan components. We're going to have technical assistance to help you with all of this. So if you haven't yet heard, July 18th, only 5 days away, the first round of technical assistance will be considered. So really look for that if this is something that impacts your community, and we encourage you to apply. It will be very plug and play. We'll get it moving very quickly because there are deadlines associated with the legislation. Here's the general process here. So the city needs to adopt the station area plan, including land use regulations, any zoning, or it could be a resolution that prior actions, previous planning work, satisfy some of the requirements of the legislation. There's technical assistance available through WFRC to do this. Then the MPOs will certify the station area plan requirements certify that those requirements have been met for the station. We're only certifying station area plans. We're not certifying the zoning, but that is part of the requirements of the bill, is that you also enable the transit-oriented development, the station area plan, to happen through your zoning. And then the city will include that certificate from the MPO in the report to DWS when it is appropriate, as far as how the deadlines affect you and your community. So not every year, not right away, maybe you won't need to include that certificate, but down the road. Here's a general timeline. The bill took effect June 1st. July 18th is our first application deadline. I'll talk again a little bit more about technical assistance here in a moment. In August, we'll make awards for that initial round. So really quick turnaround on getting you the funds, the assistance that you need to make this happen. There's a qualifying land use application provision of the station area planning statute. In a nutshell, and if you believe this applies to your community, please reach out. We can dive much deeper into this. But in a nutshell, if an application for development is made that meets certain criteria, one of those is that it's at least 5 acres. One of those is that it includes a certain amount of affordable housing, among other things. If that application is made that does not fit your zoning, that may begin a 1-year clock for you to complete your station area plan. So it's really good to be aware of that provision, as you certainly should be proactive in your station area planning. But if you did receive a land use application you believe is qualifying, that might move your deadline up a little bit for that specific station. There are not too many stations where this applies, but if you believe it might apply in your city, let's chat, because we wouldn't want to see that deadline sneak up on you. In 2025, December 31st of 2025, the station area plans are due generally. If your city has more than 4 stations, you've probably already looked into this quite a bit. If that's the case for you, the deadline applies to 4 of those stations, barring any qualifying land use applications. Beyond those 4 stations, you need to do 2 a year every year thereafter to remain in compliance. So if you have a lot of transit stations in your city, we can dive deeper into those details about the deadline as well. When WFRC reviews, WFRC and the Mountain Land Association of Governments to the South, when these MPOs review your station area plans for certification, we are not looking to tell you how to plan your stations, right? We will have been there involved with you along the process, but we want to make sure your vision is what shines through. When looking at these 3 options for how we will review these station area plans, the Wasatch Front Regional Council voted and the Regional Growth Committee voted on a degree of reasonableness. So rather than being perfunctory and just kind of checking the box or looking at it with strict scrutiny and thinking about how we would have liked to see it planned or how that reviewer might have liked to see it planned, we will be reviewing these with a lens of reasonableness. So utilizing professional judgment, not dictating how the city satisfies the requirements, but whether the city has reasonably satisfied requirements. This can be really iterative with us, right? You can always run things by us, say, hey, do you think that this satisfies the requirement, or how can I strengthen the way we're meeting this objective? We're really happy to help, and we won't surprise you with a negative recommendation. We won't surprise you by telling you that we're not recommending that the Regional Growth Committee certify your station area plan. As we get to that, we'll have lots of opportunities for information and training. This is on the website. I won't go through it in too much detail, but I'll just note that once a city submits their station area plan or any resolutions that apply to WFRC, we'll review those with UTA, staff will review those, and between this review period and this recommendation period, what we recommend to the Regional Growth Committee, we'll be in touch, right? We'll get back to you. We'll let you know if we have any questions. We'll let you know if there's anything we think might not meet the requirements, and you'll have the opportunity to work through those things prior to it going to Regional Growth Committee. So I guess tripling down on we're here to help. For technical assistance, through the legislative process and through an application to industrial assistance account funding from GOEO, the MPOs have obtained $5 million to be able to program for technical assistance for station area plans, all things required under the legislation, and going above and beyond as well as rewriting your zoning or updating zones to enable the transit-oriented development that is reflected in your station area plan. We plan to program this money frequently, roughly every 2 months, sort of depending on the influx of applications at the beginning. The first deadline is July 18th, and thereafter that we're hoping to do another round in September, another round in November, kind of so on and so forth, making sure that we're not a bottleneck as you do your planning, especially when those qualifying land use applications come in. We want it to be ready to go, right there for you to use. This application is fairly simple. It shouldn't take too long, especially if you have an idea of what you'd like to accomplish. And we're here to help with that too. On July 14th, tomorrow, there is a training from 1:30 to 3:30 at the WFRC offices on obtaining technical assistance. We encourage you to bring your application, bring your laptop. We're gonna have a really long, most of that 2-hour block is just questions and answers, open house style format to make sure that all of your questions are answered before you go to submit that application on the 18th. And we're really looking forward to helping you with this. We understand that when planning is required, there's a lot of pressure and maybe there's an urge to just get it done. But we really believe in this station area planning and the impact it can have on our region. And so we're really eager to help you. And we're staffing up and we're getting everything in place to try and make it as easy as possible for you. Any questions on station area planning or the training?
I have a few. Brittany Ward with Sandy City. This was just released, the technical assistance, a few weeks ago, and the training is only like 2 days before the applications are due. I'm wondering, can we extend the deadline? Because that makes it really tight for a lot of cities, and we might not be able to apply just because it's so tight.
Yeah, we know, and it's been a scramble to get all of this out. What we want to do is make a round available for those that are ready, and the next round will be just after, like we'll review again in September. So we're doing this on a frequent basis to make sure we're trying to make the timeline work for everyone. If we can get a few projects started in August, we want to do that. And also, if you're in the application and there's something holding you up, let us know, because it might be that we can just keep moving forward. I mean, if you're submitting on the 19th, call me, ask if you can get included in that pot. Really, this isn't meant to be like our Transportation and Land Use Connection program is a competitive program, right, for awards. It's not overly competitive, right? You're not beating down hundreds of cities, but it is competitive just given the limited funds we have. With this, the idea is to program funds as quickly as possible and to make it work for you. So we're not necessarily trying to pit one project against another, but just get the funds in your hands and get them available to you. And I know it's all happening really fast. Sorry.
Okay. And then we are updating doing stationary plans as part of our general plan update currently right now. Can we apply for funds to do a specific targeted study on our Sandy Civic Center station, even though we're already programmed to do the stationary plans as part of our general plan update?
Most likely, yeah. These funds are really flexible, and it can, however it fits in. We understand some cities might be adopting these stationary plans as part of their general plan. Some might adopt them as standalone plans. They might have pieces of it in a couple of different places, and that's okay. These funds are meant to be really flexible and just work for you. So let's chat and make sure, but most likely, yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can schedule a phone conversation.
Absolutely, I'd be super happy to.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. It's all happening really fast for me too. I'll just say this is anyway, usually we have a little more time to get things set up, but we also, I'll just say, I'll recognize really quick that during the legislative session, there was all kinds of pressure for cities to, and it at different times took a lot of different forms, all the way down to, you know, potentially regulating what zoning could be at stations. And so I'll just, you know, we've had cities' best interest in mind, and we also really are, I can't say it enough, on your side and here to help. That's what we're here for. I want to mention on HB 462, the League of Cities and Towns is working on just HB 462 overall and the moderate income housing plan requirements. The League of Cities and Towns is working on a lot of different material to help you with those, the moderate income housing provisions of HB 462 as well. And EWS has some updates on their website as well. So we'll post a link to that.
All right. Any other questions for Megan about stationary plans or HB 462? If not, I'm sure we'll send out some follow-up information and keep in touch. Up next, Michaela, Parks and Public Spaces.
Hello, everyone. As George said, I'll be talking about parks and public spaces, specifically kind of two things. One, you know, we've gotten feedback from you all in the past about different challenges and opportunities that you've had involving parks and public spaces. At that time, we were using the phrase green infrastructure, but you know, we were talking about how that phrase means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and that residents might not know what that is. So we're testing out parks and public spaces as our kind of all-encompassing go-to phrase for this. But you all had provided feedback to us on what ways WFRC might be able to provide support. So we'll talk about that. And then I'll mention some more planning technical assistance opportunities in general. So we've heard from you that you're facing a growing demand for parks and public spaces amidst development pressures, connectivity challenges, and various types of planning needs. And we're hoping that WFRC support could help fill some of these gaps. So we have kind of 5 proposals for you all today based on our previous discussions in these meetings. The first is that we and our partners continue to develop data and analyses useful for communities, expanding upon work such as the existing Wasatch Front Park and Trail Accessibility Interactive Map. This map shows 10-minute walk sheds to parks in the region. So if there's data or analyses that would be really helpful for your planning efforts related to parks and public spaces, but that just don't exist yet, let us know, and that could be a space we provide support in. Secondly, us and our partners could continue to provide technical assistance through the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program for sub-regional parks and public spaces planning efforts. Previous examples of this include the 7 Vision Greenways Plan, the Blueprint Jordan River Update, and funded in the last cycle, the Southwest Waterways Vision Plan. So if you and your nearby communities have a need of collaborating on you know, a vision or an effort for parks and public spaces across your boundaries, this might be a good fit. A third way we might be able to provide support is through technical assistance with the Your Land, Your Plan effort. This is sort of a subset of TLC funded by Intermountain Healthcare and Zions Bank. Through this, we could provide planning technical assistance such as ordinance audits for you know, health and livability, or for sustainability, water-wise, landscaping, things like that. It could include community resilience plans, and it could include things like public asset utilization assessments. So looking at what are the public assets available in the community, how are they currently utilized, and maybe how could they be utilized to help meet different needs that the community's identified through your general plan visioning process. The fourth way we could provide support is through developing sample ordinances and providing those as a tool. For example, an MPO in Kansas did model ordinances on tree protection, weed management, and native plant encouragement. And finally, our shared Wasatch Choice vision has several goals that are directly related to parks and public spaces. One is about healthy and livable communities. One's about ample parks, open spaces, and recreational opportunities. And so in the next Wasatch Choice cycle, you and other Wasatch Front communities could develop a collective vision for parks and public spaces. And that's just a little bit more fleshed out than in our current Wasatch Choice vision. So those were the 5 ideas we wanted to bring to you all. And before I open it up for feedback discussion, I wanted to share or remind about our different planning technical assistance options. We have the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program. And we have Your Land, Your Plan Now, which, as I said, is a partnership with Zions Bank and Intermountain Healthcare and the Utah League of Cities and Towns. And parks and public space planning efforts can really fit into either or both of those. Talk to us if you have different ideas about park and public space planning efforts, and we can help you figure out how we can support that project. Megan, Marcia, Christy, and I are great people to reach out to talk about TLC. And the application cycle is upcoming. So letters of intent are due in September and applications are due in December. We're planning on leading some project idea meetings in August or in September before letters of intent are due about different topics. So, for example, parks and public spaces, you can lead a meeting on your project ideas, just bring together communities and you can brainstorm about what might be useful. And we'll also be checking in and with you all about project ideas for TLC in the next few weeks as well. So here I just put up the 5 ways we can support you all in this space. And we really just want your feedback on, are we on the right track? Will these be helpful to you? And, how can we best support your planning needs and efforts in this space? Anyone have any comments or questions? Going once?
I can speak from the MSD side. Sorry, my voice is terrible right now. I think the things that would be most helpful to us would be number 1 and number 4. The data analysis, having that available saves us a ton of time, especially because, we're working with multiple communities. And so to pull all that data separately sometimes takes a lot. And also working with areas like in the canyons or unincorporated areas where the data available doesn't always line up with what we're seeing on the ground. I think being able to use WFRC's data is often more reliable. We trust that a lot more, and your forecasts are really helpful because they're linked to the regional planning efforts. And then also for sample ordinances, that's one thing that we write our ordinances in-house, but again, it takes a lot of time, and having a model that we can build off of would be huge for us. So those are my thoughts.
Any particular model ordinances that you think would be most helpful?
I think something along the lines of greenway or trail planning, how do people start to zone for that? I know you can do set asides through development agreements. Some people have zoned way ahead of time if they've had greenway alignments up in Park City. Being able to navigate that through ordinance would be helpful. Maybe also things like green infrastructure and low impact development. Thinking about how this is encompassing those as well, a little bit beyond the park space.
Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. Kayla, does anyone else have a comment or question?
I have a comment, and it's a little related to what Kayla was saying with the green infrastructure or that sort of thing. When this initiative first got brought up, I was pretty excited because the region I worked in previously had done some pretty significant work with looking at alternatives, bioswales, all those kind of things to manage stormwater in a more sustainable fashion. And a lot of it is connected to our transportation infrastructure. And it's really good that you've clarified where the focus of this is, but I guess I'd just say it would be great to see some sort of initiative in the future that looks at how to incorporate more green infrastructure. As we know, we have those sort of seasonal flooding that happens, and a lot of it is due to the amount of impervious surface, and a lot of it comes from our often very large roads. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's no other questions. Jory, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Michaela. Great presentation. And if you all missed the chat, Dina had to step away. So she's asked me to lead us forward. So we've got 30 minutes. We've got about 30 minutes of agenda items. So I think this is going to work out perfectly. Sarah, would you like to present about the ParksRx Utah?
Yes, thank you for having me. I think this is that was a really good introduction what I have to speak about today. So let me just share my screen real quick and we'll get started. And for many of you, this might be a reminder for those that attended the active transportation meeting that I presented at. But if not, hopefully this is something interesting for you all. So I work with the Salt Lake County Health Department, but a project that I have worked on for the last several years is a project called ParksRx Utah, which essentially is prescribing nature as medicine. So for instance, you may go to a doctor and be told, oh, you need to exercise more. But then many people are left with, okay, well, what do I do now? I don't know what to do. I don't like going to the gym. It just really leaves a lot of room to not be successful in completing a fitness goal. And so that's kind of where we come in. So first, I like to kind of just remind people of the benefits of spending time outdoors. So a lot of the data backs up that there's can be major improvements in anxiety, depression, a lot of mental health disorders, but also there's a lot of physical health benefits as well. So improving glucose levels in patients with diabetes, decreases high blood pressure, but it also allows opportunity to have create sustainable health behaviors, which we really want for people to be healthier longer. And then there's a lot of other benefits for other diseases as well. So park prescriptions can address health equity issues. So that means everyone has a fair and just opportunity to be healthy. So park outings are typically convenient to get to, inviting and reliable. They accommodate ability level of a patient, and they provide opportunities for regular engagement. But something that what really pulled me to this project is that parks are free to go to, and they're something that everyone's comfortable with. And the cost might be something what deters someone to go to the gym. And so we want to find these free opportunities for people to be able to be active and connect them to those parks. And then connecting Utahns to local park and outdoor opportunities allows for conversations. And this is the reason why I'm here speaking today regarding walkable neighborhoods, active transportation, safer parks, park access, and equitable opportunities to outdoor activities. And then I will have this slide again towards the end once you kind of have a better idea of what park prescriptions can look like. So now I will just give you a brief little look into what it looks like. ParksRx Utah has partnered with the national database called ParksRx America, and they have this really amazing database where doctors can prescribe parks to their patients, but also it should be noted that you don't actually have to have a medical license to give these kind of prescriptions. So for instance, yesterday I was presenting ParkRx to schools. And so a school counselor or a social worker could give this prescription, or, you know, it really can be in a variety of ways, but traditionally and today we're going to be looking at what it'll look like for a provider. So ParkRx America, this is kind of what will be in within this prescription. So you can see that it's very specific. So instead of just saying you need exercise or you need to go outside, we're really going to get into this the specificity of what a prescription could look like. And it's really meant to be a conversation between the prescriber and the person being prescribed the prescription. So they feel like they have ownership over their prescription, and they feel like they have a say in what they're being told to do. So you can see that it'll include a place. So that can either be a park. We try to focus a lot on parks, but it could be other green space as well, trails, or even their neighborhood. And then an activity, really finding what they enjoy doing or what they are capable of doing. If they are very set on living a sedentary life, maybe a walk is all that they can do. And then looking at the frequency and that duration. So kind of deciding how often they would like to fill this prescription and how long they would do it. So, and it's really meant to meet them, patients where they're at, but also trying to push them to do a little bit more later on. But what's really interesting about this, for that first one, place, you can see looking for a specific park or park amenity. So in the database, you can type the patient's address, maybe their work site, wherever they would, they're going to be around where their outdoor opportunity is. So you can type in, you know, a zip code. So for this example, we did 84105 and then chose a 1 mile radius, but you can see you can do from a 1/4 mile to 10 miles, but kind of what was mentioned earlier, we really would like the opportunity for these individuals to walk to their parks. And so find something that's close by. So you can see that 5 parks were generated here, and what the patient and the provider could do is click on the parks to see what kind of amenities are there. So if someone's thinking, oh, I really want a nice walking path, you know, Sugar House Park would probably be the park for that. Or if maybe they like to play pickleball, then maybe Fairmount Park would be the right park for them. So then you can see kind of what it would look like to be filled out. So, you know, the place, outdoor park near house, the activity, a walk unplugged without earbuds, frequency every day after work, duration for 45 minutes. And then there's a lot of background stuff that I'm not going to bother with you guys today, but it's really cool to see it. It's really geared towards those who work in clinics. But something cool is that they can send this prescription or email this prescription to their patients, and they will get reminders of this as well. So they can set up reminders for this. So if they are doing this every day, they can get reminders every day, and they can also choose how long they want to get these reminders as well. So they're not being bothered with it 3 months in. And then this is what essentially it would look like for the patient on their end. So they'll get their specific prescription code there at the top, and then where the location that they chose. And then if they click on that log your first visit, that's how they technically fill the prescription. Instead of, you know, getting a medicinal prescription, this is, and getting it at the pharmacy, this is how they would fill this kind of prescription. So I did want to mention a little bit more about our organization and maybe how you guys can be involved. So ParkRx Utah, we are a multi-sector initiative whose mission is to prescribe parks and other recreational settings to prevent chronic conditions, improve physical, social, and mental health, and promote wellness by collaborating with partners and connecting all Utahns to parks and other recreational sites. So we started back in 2018, really just doing our research about other programs within the country. And then we pulled people from different sectors. And I think that's really truly been the greatest strength of our program. So we have partners ranging from public health, park and recreation, healthcare, research, and it has been so helpful to have different voices at the table because different areas understand, park and rec more than I would in public health and whatnot. And other people have different connections and other knowledge or other some data that we wouldn't be aware of. And so it's been one of our greatest strengths. And because of the growth of our program and us seeing a need for different areas, we decided to develop 4 work groups. So the clinical one is the traditional one, like we kind of went through, kind of getting into those clinics and training the providers to become prescribers and collecting evaluation data from them. And then we have our mental health work group. And so we're trying to get this also into those mental health offices. So maybe in lieu of, antidepressants or something like that, they can be prescribed a park to go to, or maybe in combination, just because there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of data backing up the mental health benefits of just being outside, whether you're being active or not. And then we have our community work group, and they do quite a bit of different things, but right now they're currently working on getting discounts to different local area organizations like Tracy Aviary or maybe even Mill Creek Canyon if someone shows that they have a prescription for that place. So it becomes more accessible to those who may not have the means to go to those places. But of course, we're going to always try to strive to navigate them to a free local park. And then we have our marketing and outreach team, and they focus, of course, on the social media aspect where we've gained a huge following, as you can see that I noted below. And they host contests. So we have a big ParkRx Day contest once a year where we essentially, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt where people perform activities outside with teams. They earn points and they earn prizes. And we've had a lot of great success with that. And it's a really fun event each year. And yeah, so we started our outreach to clinics and work sites in 2019. That we obviously had a little break during COVID, but this year we've really picked things up, and we have about 5 clinics that will be starting soon within just Salt Lake County. So, and that includes an Intermountain Clinic, a U of U Health Clinic, and then some independent clinics as well. So we're very excited to see the growth happening this year after a little hiatus. And I already went over the work groups. And like I said, I wanted to connect or go back to this slide just because, like you mentioned in the previous presentation, it sounds like your group is really kind of wanting the same things that we want. We want, active transportation and promoting that, walkable neighborhoods, safer parks, people being able to access their parks and having that conversation, because that's kind of come up in our group where, we don't want to prescribe a park where someone feels like it's not safe, or maybe they don't have a park in their area. And so it's really this ongoing conversation that we want to have with partners regarding this topic. So we have enough places to prescribe. And so just some next steps, feel free to visit our website, parkrxutah.org. We have a lot of information resources on there, as well as a way to connect with us. And then we also feel free to follow us on social media. We always post some tips or locations on ideas of where to take, your family to be outside and things like that. And so if you ever have something in your community that you want us to promote, feel free to reach out to us, because we're always happy to promote all the great things that you guys are doing regarding outdoor opportunities. And then you can also contact me at skinnison@slco.org, and I can put that in the chat as well if you would like to be part of this conversation, whether you want to be part of our coalition or whether you want to work individually. Your community's best, and we really want to serve your communities with you, and finding a way to promote all the great things that are within your community, as well as getting people outside to improve their physical and mental health. So if you think there's a way that we can collaborate, feel free to reach out. We can brainstorm together and figure something out. But Yes, I know that was a lot of information, but does anyone have any immediate questions or thoughts?
Sarah Wendelin made a pretty good comment in the chat. I think it, you know, isn't directed necessarily only at you, it's you and the Parks and Open and Public Spaces between the last two presentations, but I thought it was really good. So you all can check that out.
Yeah, no, I will read that right now. Thank you so much. And like I said, I will add my email right now. So in case anything comes up or you would like to connect, I will have that there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, Ted Knowlton, want to chat a little bit about upcoming fall conference planning.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, Jory. And it's good to see you all in this bizarre kind of Brady Bunch square kind of way. And we look forward to seeing you in person at our next time. This is just a really quick item. So we all know that in the fall, it's conference season. There's the ULCT Cities and Towns Conference. There's the UDOT conference. And I think that when we think of the UDOT conference, if you haven't been to that, it's really like the transportation conference for the state. And there's other conferences, Utah Association of Counties. Well, you all may be submitting content and ideas for these conferences. This item is to ask the question, hey, do you want to be part of a brainstorming and initial organization around Wasatch Choice oriented content? So we're going to have a 1-hour meeting on July 20th at 11 o'clock, virtual only. And so what will happen in that is we will explore together ideas organized around collaborative planning, planning in which we think long-term and we dovetail housing and economic development and transportation and open space. And we are purposeful and deliberative and collaborative about creating great quality of life over time. So it's Wasatch Choice kind of content that we will brainstorm. And I'll also note with an eye towards implementation, right? So if you're interested, you'll come and you might say, hey, look, I've got an idea for a session. Or you might say, I'm aware of either in my community or a nearby community, there's a great story of collaborative planning or implementation. And you also might say, hey, look, I'm interested in being part of a session, okay? This is the kind of thing. So let's say that you're interested in being part of this conversation, but you can't make that meeting July 20th at 11 o'clock. Well, you can reply back to emails that'll come. You can share your thoughts that way. There will be cloud documents that you can provide your 2 cents. So what I'm looking for in this meeting is, if you're interested, just shoot me your contact information. We'll get you on the list. We'll get you on that invite, and we'll go from there and see if we can tell the story of collaborative planning and implementation in the Wasatch Choice spirit through these fall conference opportunities. And by the way, if they don't fit in with a conference, we could always do a webinar. So I'll just pause and see if you've got any questions on this. You can put your contact information in the chat, or you can email me, ted@wfrc.org, and let me know if you're interested.
All right, thanks, Ted. I am going to jump into our RTP presentation unless anybody has any quick questions for Ted about the conferences. All right, we are still on time. We will work to get you all out of here by 10:30. But if we have a presentation real quick by myself and Julie Bjornstad, we're going to jump into some breakout rooms. So if you, if we need to or want to, we can stay as long as you need in the breakout rooms. We'll have them broken out. So let me jump into this. Can you all see the presentation? All right, I see some head nodding. Quick reminder, the RTP, the Regional Transportation Plan, is part of the Wasatch Choice Vision. That's the transportation component, along with with our economic development and land use portions. It's built on the 10 goals that the council has adopted, and you can see them all on the right hand of the screen, but everything we do is through that lens. It's all encompassing in modes. It's active transportation, roadways, transit, and the connection to land use. We do it on a 4-year cycle. We are in our 4th year. So on the final stretch of our planning process, it has to be financially constrained, meaning we can't just put a bunch of needed projects without looking at our revenues. And it has to meet our air quality conformity into the future. We break it into 3 phases. So in this plan, phase 1 is 2023 to 2032. Phase 2 is 2033 to 2042. And phase 3 is 2043 to 2050. As I made mention, we are almost finishing the plan. We have looked at external forces and policies with you all. We looked at over 20 of those back summer of 2021, moved into our scenario planning and drafted a preferred scenario this last winter, and just more recently worked on needs-based phasing with you this spring. And we are now to the point where we are looking at a financial constraint or a fiscal constraint plan. You will be seeing, Julie's going to run through some numbers here with you shortly. You all are the first ones to see this besides UDOT and UTA. We've been working with UDOT and UTA, partnering with them and looking at some of this information up to this point. And then ultimately, we will work to our fall workshops and public comment and final adoption in spring of 2023. So that's kind of the high-low overview schedule. Reminder and promotion this fall, October and November, they're not on your calendar yet, but they will be coming within the next month or so. Fall 2022 workshops. And this is when we'll not only ask you for input on the draft plan, but these are the meetings that we invite elected officials, so mayors, commissioners, city council, planning commission, and then key staff, city managers, economic development directors, engineers, and planners. So there'll be good meetings, and we'll be looking for collective input from each of the local communities. And we gathered information on the draft preferred scenario also on those. We, this last spring, just as a reminder, with you, looked at our phasing criteria. So as we look at the draft financial constraint plan, all projects were scored against each other by mode. And you helped us review the phasing criteria and the weighting. And they included all the pieces over there on the side, which are directly tied to our Wasatch Choice goals. The comment period of the spring, went out into the middle part of May. We reviewed over 200 comments, or almost 300 comments on the needs-based phasing. We appreciate your eyes on this, your input. We had lots of interaction either via emails, one-on-one phone calls, set up meetings with the community or the DOT, UTA to kind of review all of those comments, and you can see how many we got per mode. We did send out the needs phasing to not only you, the RGC tax or Plan TAC, and we did send it to the Transcom tax, so the engineers also were able to review this. So, and then last thing that goes into needs or financially constrained phasing is that we, along with the other 3 MPOs in the state and UDOT and UTA, are working on a unified plan financial model. And this is something that we've been working collectively as part of our unified plan effort. I believe we're on our 5th iteration since the mid-2000s working on this, but We'll look at revenues and expenditures for road, transit, and active transportation. This is the first time we'll actually look to financially constrained active transportation, and it's an exciting time. We have some new funding sources going to active transportation that we hadn't before. We have some new transit resources coming from the state as well in the TTIP. So updates that we do within this model include growth rates, cost and operating expenses, new local option sales taxes, any state funding, including for active transportation. And then we also update on the new federal funding, and in this case, the IIJA funding that had just been recently allocated. So with that, I will pass this on to Julie, and she'll go over some of the highlights of the revenue and the cost needs of the modes.
Okay, thanks, Dory. So this graphic is showing how much money we have in that total revenue available that Dory just mentioned. So it includes all existing funding sources, as well as assumed new revenues, like Dory mentioned. That would be local options, new local option sales taxes, for instance. So on the bike side, the active transportation side, we have just under $1 billion over the 26 years or 28 years or so. And then on the road side, we have close to $18 billion. And then on the transit side, we have $5.2 billion. So if you go to the next slide. So I'll show you now the breakdown for roads, active transportation, and transit based on needs, and then how that compares to our available revenue. So here you can see of that, let's see, the actual total number of needs we have is about $25 billion worth of need, both on that's a combination of local and state roadway needs for capacity. You can see that about 53% of that, or about $13 billion, is in phase 1 need. About 36%, or about $9 billion, is in phase 2, and then the remainder, just close to $3 billion, is in phase 3. Sorry. Okay, Dory just stopped sharing.
Oh, did I? Oops.
Okay.
Back?
Yeah, thanks. If you go to the next slide, and how that compares to the revenue that we have available, is that overall we have about, $17.6 billion worth of total revenue, as we mentioned before. So we have $25 billion of need and $17.5 billion of revenue. So you can see that there's going to be a significant unfunded portion, about $7.5 billion. And that's a combination of state and local funds, about $4.5 billion unfunded on the state side and about $3 billion unfunded on the local side. So you can see that in the first phase, we can only really afford slightly over half of our first phase needs, phase 1 needs, about just over half of our phase 2 needs, and then we have a little bit more in phase 3. But just as you look at the needs-based phasing map that we'll share with you in a second, just know that a lot of our phase 1 needs are going to be pushed to phase 2. Phase 2 is going to be pushed to phase 3, and some of our phase 2 and phase 3 projects are going to be unfunded. So just expect kind of that shock maybe. But this is including new revenue. So even to get to this point, we do anticipate new local option sales taxes, about 1 per phase. For instance, a little bit of increase in vehicle registration fees. And then, of course, this is assuming growth in the gas tax and growth in sales tax on the state side to fund the TIF. Dorothy, go to the next slide. This is showing our transit needs. They just come about $12 billion worth of transit needs over the 3 phases. You can see in phase 1, that's close to $2.5 billion. Phase 3, we have about $6 billion. And then, phase 2. And then in phase 3, about $3 billion. And how that compares to our assumed revenue available. Sorry, next slide. Here we have just over about $5 million, so about $5.5 billion of funding available. over the next, until 2050. So here again, you see that we can only fund about half of our phase 1 needs. In phase 2, we can fund about 1/3, and then in phase 3, we can fund about 2/3. This again assumes that we have new local option sales taxes for transit and assumes growth in the TTIF. The TTIF, as you know, comes with a local match. So even to get to this point, there's some action that needs to be taken by local governments. So we're quite underfunded on the transit side. And then, sorry, on the AT side, next slide. So this is the first time that we try to financially constrain the active transportation side. So here we're assuming that active transportation revenues are coming from CMAQ, STP, the Transportation Alternatives Program, TIF-AT, TTIF, first mile, last mile, some Safe for Us with School money, and then money from the Joint Highway Committee at UDOT. So here we have just about $1.1 billion worth of needs on the AT side. The majority of that is coming in phase 1. Obviously, our system is more underbuilt in comparison to our road or transit system. And so we have a lot of sort of existing needs here. And then Dory, if you go to the next slide, you can see how that compares. We have less needs in phase 1 because right now most of the TIF has been programmed. That was why we had a big jump in phase 1 on the road side. And so we're assuming in phase 2 and 3 that there's a little bit more money available for active transportation coming out of the TIF, as well as obviously the growth in things like sales tax and federal funding growth. But even here, we're underfunded as well by about $400 million total throughout the course. So you'll see a lot of unfunded needs on all 3 modes. And bear in mind, to even get to this point, we still need some action in terms of additional revenue streams. Jory, you have anything else to add?
No, do not. I'm actually, one thing with the active transportation piece of it is we're still, it's tricky in the fact that we're working, with a lot of local planners to figure out how much the cost will be. It's rare that a project gets built standalone. It's usually incorporated with a roadway project, or it's kind of in its own right of way, like a trail or a pathway. So we're refining some of that, and then also really trying to line up our active transportation with our roadway plan to make sure that we're optimizing, resources in the future, that if a road project is getting built, then it also will include the active transportation piece of it. So looks like, oops, I have the wrong URL up on the on this slide, so I'm gonna hurry and move this slide. But you all can click on the URL in the chat box. But before we jump into the breakout sessions, I had breakouts available. Want to let you know our schedule. So quickly, we are going to be going through, we'll have comments available between now and August 5th on our interactive map. And we'll show you how to do that here quickly. Pretty easy. You click on a project at the bottom of the project, underneath the project information, you can click add comment. We're meeting with UDOT and UTA leadership in August. And then, like I made mention before, we're going out to the workshops and reaching out to key stakeholders in October and November, along with continuing our unified plan coordination. We'll take public comment in January, February, and then adoption this spring. So let me walk you through this really quick. So like I made mention, and I'll actually get into the right map here now. No, hold on. There we go, it's loading. Takes a second. I kind of like these little blinky lights over here. But when you get into it, you can click on a project like mode here, road, transit, active transportation. It's really thinking this morning. Tried to refresh. Matthew, my computer's just really slow. So here's what we're gonna do. We will get these loaded up. Let's all go into breakout rooms. We have 3 breakout rooms. We know that we're right at the end of our time. So Lauren will be in the transit. I'll go to the active transportation, and Julie will go to, or not Julie, Nikki will be in the roadway. If we'll walk you through these. If you have questions, we'll discuss the projects. But again, it's pretty simple. The nice thing about this map is that you can look at financially constrained and the needs-based phasing for the draft plan right now. So there we go. Now it's loading. I'm going to stop sharing, and if we want, we can go into the breakout rooms. Does that work?